This attack is played out, sir. Should we make our way back to the lines? It's one hell of-ish steal to make our way. Over a second time, Jefferson Davis fled Richmond with $528,000 in gold. By the time they caught him, every penny was gone. The South's war balloons were so bad, Confederate troops shot at their own pilots. One woman kept collecting her father's Civil War pension until she died at 90 in 2020. The Civil War wasn't just brutal, it was bizarre, and some of the weirdest parts have never been properly explained. Let's start with New Orleans. It was the South's biggest city, the main port, and second only to Richmond in importance. But in April 1862, it collapsed almost without a fight. What happened wasn't just a loss. It was a disaster built on arrogance, bad planning, and a complete misunderstanding of how war had changed. Confederate leaders believed the city was safe. They trusted two old forts, Jackson and St. Philip, sitting 70 miles downriver. These brick forts were supposed to stop anything coming up the Mississippi. They didn't. For 7 days, Union forces bombarded them with mortars. But it wasn't the bombardment that ended it. On April 24th, Admiral David Farragut made a bold move. He sent his fleet right past the forts. The guns were still firing, but it didn't matter. The Union ships just pushed through. While this was happening, Confederate command was focused elsewhere. They were obsessed with winning at Shiloh. That's where they sent most of their troops and weapons. Every man and gun they could spare went to Tennessee, not Louisiana. Meanwhile, the Union had a bigger plan. Farragut was coming from the Gulf, and Grant was working his way down from the north. It was a trap, and the South didn't even see it forming. Once the ships got past the forts, everything fell apart fast. Confederate gunners tried to stop them near the city, but they barely lasted. Witnesses said they ran in every direction once the Union returned fire. By April 25th, the city surrendered. The forts held out for more days, then gave up too. The Union lost 229 men. The Confederates lost 782. But the real loss wasn't counted in soldiers. It was economic, and it was brutal. When New Orleans fell, it sent the Southern economy into a tailspin. There was $8 million worth of gold and silver in the banks. Now out of Confederate hands, people panicked. Prices soared. Inflation hit hard. And worse, global investors panicked, too. Confederate bonds backed by cotton became worthless almost overnight. Historian Neil Ferguson later said, "This moment, not Gettysburg, not Antietam, was the real turning point in the war. The South lost its biggest city, its money, and its best chance of getting help from abroad, all in a single week." Then there was a decision to move the Confederate capital from Montgomery, Alabama to Richmond, Virginia in May 1861. On the surface, it looked like a patriotic gesture. In reality, it was a gamble that put the entire Confederacy at risk. Jefferson Davis, the Confederate president, didn't even support the move at first, and for good reason. Richmond sat just 100 miles from Washington, D.C., the heart of the Union. It was vulnerable right from the start. Still, Virginia leaders pushed for it, and by May 20th, 1861, Congress approved the change. Here's the strange part. Virginia hadn't even officially left the Union yet. It voted for secession on April 17th, but the public vote wouldn't happen until May 23rd. And yet, the Confederate government decided on May 2nd, weeks before that vote, to relocate to Richmond. It was a move driven by politics and desperation, not strategy. The Confederates wanted to lock down Virginia's loyalty, no matter the cost. But there was another reason behind the ship industry. Richmond had the Tredegar Iron Works, one of the biggest foundries in America. It was the South's crown jewel. Tredegar made cannons, railroad cars, rails, and iron plates for warship. It also produced bullets, guns, swords, uniforms, leather, gear, basically everything a wartime army needed. No other southern city could match Richmond's output. From a manufacturing point of view, the move made sense. From a military point of view, it was a nightmare. Richmond quickly became a bullseye for the Union Army. Its location meant it was always in danger. The Union's Peninsula Campaign in 1862 pushed troops right to Richmond's outskirts. Battles raged just outside the city. Year after year, Confederate leaders threw men and resources into defending it, and every time they did, they drained strength from other parts of the South. In 1860, Richmond had a population of just under 38,000. It ranked 25th among U.S. cities. But by 1865, it looked like a war zone. The worst day came on April 2, 1865, Evacuation Sunday. As Confederate troops retreated, they were ordered to destroy any supplies the Union might capture. Fires broke out and spread through the city. Whole neighborhoods were abandoned. The next morning, an explosion at the city's powder magazine killed several people and shattered windows across Richmond. The destruction was total. Fires ripped through downtown, leveling everything in their path. Union troops entered a city already in ruins, burned not by enemies, but by its own defenders. After 4 years of brutal war, Richmond didn't fall in battle. It collapsed under the weight of its own poor planning. The decision to defend Richmond at all costs didn't just cost the Confederacy a city. It helped cost them the war. What was meant to be a show of strength became a symbol of failure. They placed their capital within striking distance of their enemy. They built their war plan around one city, and in the end they lost everything trying to protect it. They say the Civil War ended in 1865, but for one woman, the war kept paying every single month until the year 2020. That woman was Irene Triplett. When Irene died, at age 90 in a North Carolina nursing home, she closed a chapter that had been open for 155 years. She was the last person in the United States still receiving a pension from the Civil War. That's not a typo. A war that ended in the 19th century was still costing the government money in the 21st. It sounds impossible until you look at the math. Irene was born in 1930, 65 years after the Civil War ended. Her father, Moses M.O. Triplett, was 83 years old when she was born. He had married his second wife, Ella Hall, in 1924. She was just 27. That's a 56-year age gap. But during